the invitation to folklore, and then we're very happy to be here today. So my name is Tenorio. I'm project leader at Heather with the studio, and I'm going to be sharing with you today a very special building, which is our studio's first healthcare and timber structure building that we did in the city of Leeds in Yorkshire. The mission from Mike is to create really uplifting, calm and friendly environments. Really resonated with the studio's ethos, because it's something that we really try to do in all our projects, improve people's experience through creating different spaces. So Maggie's commissioned us to work on the 26th Cancer Care Center, which is located in the city in Yorkshire, which unfortunately happens to be also the place with the highest incidence of cancer in England. This is the site. This is St James Hospital, which is a hugely densely built complex with very little available free space to create a new center. The site that was chosen sits at the very center of this hugely densely built complex, hospital complex, and is used to be the last patch of greenery. So the hospital was very protective about that little small patch of greenery. The site, which you can see in the picture, is surrounded by very tall, imposing buildings, a multi-story car park, and then the Bexley wing on far north. These very tall buildings created a very windy environment, and also the site is surrounded, wrapped by the ambulance route on the way to the Bexley wing, which meant that we couldn't close the road at any time without obstruction site. The site is also on a sloping terrain, so it has 7 meters of difference from one side to the other. But it also happens to enjoy views on the background of the beautiful Yorkshire Dales. So we question ourselves, how can we not only preserve the last patch of greenery in the complex, but also enhance it and make it more available for hospital users. We went through a very long design process with Maggie's, and rather than thinking the building as an object that would be sitting on top of this very small plot of land, which would have felt very overimposed, what we did instead was to place the most intimate spaces, the counseling rooms, in the middle of the garden, almost like if they were pots sitting on top of a landscape. Then, in order to deal with the change of levels, we connected all these counseling rooms with a series of communal spaces that adapt gently to the sloping terrain of the system. Then we use the counseling rooms as the cores of a new roof structure that will be then providing shelter and protection to the spaces around. And lastly, we reinstated the gardens that were taken out by the footprint of the building and then placed them on top of the existing roof, of the new roof. But at the same time, increase the gardens all around the center. So this was a visual that we presented as part of our planning application and part of our design process. But what was very important for us is like these new gardens that are inspired by the British woodlands will be able not only to be accessible by users of the centers, but the visual impact that will create for everyone else using the hospital. We wanted this in this particular project that the garden and the interior space to be the heroes of the scheme rather than the architecture. In a sense, almost like people will feel the energy emanating from the interior space, giving the sense of hope, while the gardens will provide the sense of protection and shelter. So we also designed all of these different spaces at different levels, and then they will all enjoy different views to different parts of the gardens that are also created different levels. So we have a sloping terrain, which is also built on top of the leftovers from the construction of the multi-story car park adjacent to us, which meant that we had an unstable soil under us. So we couldn't create very deep piling. So instead what we did was to create a series of concrete rafters that would sit very gently on top of the sloping terrain and creating and distributing the loads evenly across the surface. We then placed, because we needed to create a very lightweight structure that will sit on top of this terrain, then we designed the rest of the structure to be completely made out of timber. So we placed the three main pods, which are the ones containing these counseling rooms that I was describing, and then place them in a strategic way that they will then create an anchoring point for a series of glulam fins. The glulam, the timber superstructure, is then completed by a new cross-laminated timber slab that then creates the complete superstructure. We then enclose the spaces with glazing partitions and loaded the roofs with lightweight soil, making them ready to receive the gardens that were designed and introduced. So one of the biggest challenges of this small plot plan was that it was under shadow most of the time. It's sitting on the north side of that very tall building, which meant that for almost half of the year it does not receive direct sunlight. So we asked ourselves, how could we be really creating this very uplifting and friendly environment under these circumstances? So we created a series of strategies and worked with the geometry of the building in order to maximize the gain of light all around the different spaces. So we created the roofs at different levels in order to create skylights at high level, which then will allow light to come in and then bounce into some of the spaces inside. We also created openings in all the elevations, maximizing the light gain all around. And at the same time work with curved geometries in order to increase the light of the gain of light, but also this light will be softer, not only on the main structure, but also on our roof edges. We studied very carefully then how sound will be moving around the site and then with the effect that all of these different moves will create in the inner spaces. This allowed us to have a very good understanding of where we were creating openings, windows, and then how we would be placing strategically all the different spaces. We put special attention to the central space, which is the heart of the building, and really analyze different strategies on how could we maximize the use of natural daylight in our building. This is just an axonometric showing all the different types of windows that we have across the building, but it shows that we did really try to maximize as much as possible how can we get natural daylight inside the spaces. And then going on to the timber structure, the amount, we choose timber for several reasons. The first one being that it will allow us to create a lightweight structure. It will also allow us to make most of it to be fabricated off-site in order to create a very efficient construction process on the particular site. But it also, from the sustainable point of view, it can create it represents almost 300 tons of captured carbon on a concrete structure. It also allowed us to, by the use of natural materials, to create a very uplifting environment. So we work very closely with Swiss manufacturer Blumen, and they really impressed us with their design and technical capabilities. This is a mock-up that was done in our studio in London as part of the design process, where we partnered with structural engineers, AKT, to really study how can we be creating a really efficient structure that will also be able to be completely exposed in the final building. as I mentioned, the whole structure was prefabricated and kind of cut in pieces on a factory environment. And so all the structure was prefabricated with these very big CNC machines that they were going to show. But oh, there you go. It was a fascinating process to really see the way the management of the timber of the structure fabrication. There is not like all those offcuts that come from the cutting of the main structure. Then they will become part of the combustion means for the factory. So it really allowed us to create a very efficient and highly precise structure, which then was able to be erected very efficiently on site. As I said, we couldn't block the road next to us at any time of the year, so we had to really manage the construction site very carefully. The total structure was fabricated in the off-site for 12 weeks and then erected only in 10 days per plot. And then this is one of the views of the structure before it received the cross-laminated timber slabs. But it shows like the timber cassettes and how the anchoring, they are providing an anchoring point for a series of timber fittings. It also shows the leaf shaft that connects all the different levels, which was also made out of timber. And once the structure started getting installed, it was amazing to see that the means of supporting the building would become also part of the final interior finish. We used in total 122 spruce glue lamp pins that provide that element of structural support, but at the same time interior finish. One of the amazing things about using timber in our structure is that it will shrink and it will expand and shrink with the seasons, almost as if the building was alive. So the timber structure that was designed to really stand the heavy wind tunnel effect that the site has, it was also designed to receive the new gardens that will come on top of the roofs. So we worked with landscape architect Boston Agius and designed together a very low-tech type of system that would allow the roofs to be installed, and also it would allow the local contractors from Yorkshire with no previous experience on roof gardens to be able to deliver this really heavily planted scheme. So the new gardens, which use in total around 44,000 plants, not only increased the biodiversity of the site, but also it created a new environment that is able to be enjoyed by everyone in the hospital. In our quest to avoid any type of resemblance to clinical spaces, we choose also natural materials for some of the other finishes, like lime render, that we use to cover the areas in between the timber fittings. Lime render is a porous and a porous material that allows for a nice flow of air and avoiding mold growth, etc. Also, we provided a series of the scale of spaces that will support Maggie's activities. Some of them are open and tall and really providing facilities for group activities, etc. But also being in charge of the interior design, working together very closely with Maggie's, we selected a range of furniture and fittings that will all use only natural materials. We also, the whole building is ventilated through natural ventilation by placing strategically windows at different levels that will allow the flow of fresh air. Uh, and what was really important for the studio, it was like the possibility to really be providing this variety of spaces. Some of them will encourage more of the private and delicate conversations. But what was really important is that there is scientific evidence that proves that an uplifting and calm environment really helps to reduce the levels of anxiety and stress. The social spaces were designed to encourage social interaction, and we celebrated the kitchen, the heart of the building, with a very special table. The table, which is also designed and inspired following the same principles as the building, is using a series of timber fins, timber legs, that are made with the same timber that was used in parts of the structure. And then the top was infilled with a series of cork panels, which is a natural material, soft to touch, very acoustic, and an organic material. So it was very important for Magis and for the studio also to really create a very homey space all around. So our response to Magis brief was to create a universal language for home and work with some of the smaller detailers as well, like the end terminations of the timber handrails. Moments that unexpectedly provide those kind of unexpected moments that when people will be interacting with the building. We also design a family of door handles that are all of them that they are branches of the species of the trees that we have in the building. So we work with the foundry Morris Singer and develop together a family of door handles that will be then welcoming visitors on the first moment of arrival. And it's been an amazing experience really to be part of this amazing project. There was so many people involved in the making of this amazing project, and the response that we've been receiving from members of users of the center, members of the hospital, has been incredibly overwhelming. And I think the most humbling kind of feedback that we've got was from a 7-year-old girl that said that she loves coming to Magis because she feels really protected, almost like she does under her blanket. This was a mammoth effort from suppliers, collaborators, clients, donors, and it was an incredible experience to be able to be part of the journey of this building. And everyone kind of came together under one vision, which was Maggie's mission, not to lose the joy of living in the fear of dying. And we really hope that we have honored that mission. And I'm going to leave you with a very small video that just shows, it's a bit of a summary of the journey of the project. Yeah, this is kind of a compilation of different footage from when we first arrived to site, and then going through the design process. Some of the physical prototyping, the one-to-one mock-up scale, the factory visits. Thank you.